What's up, guys? Here at the Force USA headquarters, I mentioned this in my previous coverage of most of the equipment, all-in-one trainers. If you didn't see that, I will link it down below in the description box. But I alluded to in that video that, in my opinion, this is one of the things that is the sleeper hit in Force USA's lineup. They said not many people really look at this or know too much about this, and that is their X15, which was part of their X series. There used to be an X20, but I'm told we don't talk about that anymore. Basically was this model with a little more extended out kind of power rack, and they just thought it wasn't selling as much, so they just alluded to this. This is their version 2 though. If I didn't say that up front, I gotta specify that the version 2, they made some other kind of quality of life adjustments. So this is the new version that is currently on the website compared to the old version. And if you look at the general market now, what people are kind of looking at with functional trainers that don't want a Smith machine, this is up there with say like the ARES 2.0 or even the, I'll compare it to like a new one like the Dane by Fringesport. And when I was up close and seeing this, I gotta be honest, I told them, like, you know, I didn't really realize it was a 3x3 or this heavy duty 11 gauge steel. I kind of thought it was just another shape like the other functional trainers without a Smith machine. And now when I came up close to it, this one really caught my attention also with the storage options here. So I really wanted to focus on this because I think if you're considering some sort of functional trainer rack type setup that is very popular right now, some people might not think of Force USA because you're thinking of the stuff that has integrated Smith machine and maybe a little bit more kind of a smaller type of frame, smaller footprint.
I want to interject here. I'm going to compare the Force USA X15 Pro to the very popular ARES 2.0 rack that they kind of going on here, functional trainer. And then the other end of the spectrum, the Dane half rack, which is a budget friendly. It's actually sold out, also appears to be very popular. They kind of talk about where the X15 I think is a nice little sweet spot. I'm not saying it's the best, I'm just saying it's a competitor that I think otherwise gets kind of overlooked. So this X15 Pro basically comes standard with the spotter arms, which are very decent heavy duty spotter arms. You'll kind of see a flash that in the picture here. Comes with some storage options, gives you a base plate, comes with a landmine, and then everything else is going to be an add-on feature. And I actually think this add-on feature is actually very cool from Force USA, not just saying that when you consider what comes in here. Comes with some heavy duty jammer arms. The storage shelves do not come standard. This little seat here for the lap pull down, Matador, dip bars. Just want to highlight that briefly. It is not necessarily cheap, but I think for what you're getting and the quality of what you're getting, it's not bad. I'm only going to say that because there are some things, you know, going back to actually what comes standard, comparing these other models. I think the standard options are pretty good, but the storage shelves do not come standard, so I want to be kind of clear in that, but it's still sitting at $39.99. When you compare it to the ARES 2.0, which is probably the most popular functional trainer, I would assume it actually took some luxuries, and Force USA has told me this a number of ways, not directly at Rep, but a lot of other companies in taking some of their design features and incorporating them. Not saying necessarily at them, because there's a lot of innovative stuff here. Digress here, but base price is $2,799. When you start building this out, I'm gonna be careful what I do here, because I've done this a few times, and this thing is very finicky with what you do. Once you start building it out, you'll see this price is not really the base price because there's a lot of things you essentially have to do, or it is the base price. You gotta do some add-ons here. You have to include the rack, that adds an extra price. I did 6 posts only because I'm not gonna go back because it'll ruin it. This adds $200 to this $4,800. But when you add the 6 posts, you kind of need to have that to make an equal equivalent here because otherwise you're not gonna get that pull-up bar. It's just that takes off that whole post. So you kind of have to add that, the colors, start adding in costs. Weight storage horns, yes, you could say this is all optional, adds another $200, but if we're comparing to the Force USA, come standard weight horns, you're only getting 6 weight horns, but here you're getting a lot more. Actually, no, you're getting 8, sorry, on that one, but get more options here. Again, you're paying for it with the Rep. You get the, let's see, pull-up bar, I had to add that on there. That's not coming standard. Once you do 6 posts, you gotta add that. J-cups, I went with a somewhat premium-ish mid-grain model for theirs to be somewhat comparable. Force USA's J-cups are actually really good. I saw them in person, comparable, really good quality J-cups, not like some cheap options that you could do with the Rep. And then when you actually look at your attachments, the only added attachments I added in here that were not standard were the spotter arms, and those kind of go up in price. Those are very decent because I have this Rep ARES spotter arms with the yoke, so those are very good spotter arms. I would say comparable to the Force USA's X15 that I also saw. And then I also had to add the landmine, which you do not see pictured here, to make the total equivalent. All that to say, when you actually price this out, try to do it very comparable, you're looking at $48.49 compared to what you would pay with $399 with the X15. Other minor things, or maybe important things, is that while this has a big weight stack, you're gonna say, well, this has 60 pounds more because it's 260 on each side. This is a 2-to-1 ratio. So The X15 is a 2-to-1 or 1-to-1. So this 260 pounds is cut in half whenever you're using this. I'll say that the caveat, you can combine these together. You got to have a banana clip here in the middle to actually make that be that 1-to-1. Other design features that are important, you can do this middle lap pulley. A lot of people love that. You'll see that in the C10 with Force USA. However, I like the simplicity, the fact that I can use this with their seat. I did a lap pull down with the 1-to-1 option, and I feel like that was adequate weight versus 2-to-1 lap pull downs with some of these cable systems, which will lead me into the Dane here, can sometimes be somewhat limiting. So the Dane is a 1-to-1, not be too confusing there. So whatever weight is in the stack is what you're getting. And that's kind of a point they like to kind of say, good things about. And definitely that's a good thing, I think. For this price, it's kind of hard to beat. You're getting a lot of good stuff in there. This is sold out, but I think there are some things, some little subtle things. You're kind of having some trade-offs here. Does come standard with the, I'll go over here. It's 160 pounds. I want to preface that right here. So the X15 Pro comes 200 pounds, 2-to-1 or 1-to-1, so you're getting more weight with the X15 Pro. Also more options, being able to go from 1-to-1 to 2-to-1. They give you aluminum pulleys here. That's something that everyone likes to talk about, and I had a long conversation with Force USA. Long story short, they don't think it makes much of a difference functionality compared to their high quality nylon pulleys. I'll just leave it at that for now. Decent other design features there. They give you standard some clips, J-cups, they give you the spotter arms, landmine also is included here. So all that is great, I think, for this package. But there's other kind of sides of the story, if you want to take it this way, is that, of course, it's got these little feet here, which I personally do not like for a number of reasons. And actually, I had a whole conversation with Force USA and why they agree they don't think most companies should actually include this feet. I digress, but there's a lat pull down option and a foot plate you'll have to add onto that. So if you actually scroll down here, if you want to make somewhat of a comparison a little bit, you'd have to add the low row plates. That's another 119. There are some storage, you don't see it here. There's a storage little peg that's like, I think $40 for every little peg that you see here on the X15. So that's going to add up some cost there as well. Other things, you have storage shelf options too, definitely add up in price versus the Force USA. You're getting 4 storage shelves if you do want to upgrade for the $700, not to mention everything else that comes in this package. So you can kind of see where I'm going with this. You guys can spend time looking at this kind of point by point. I just want to say that these are both very too popular and I would say very good options. But if you're like me and you want something that is somewhat space saving, functional design, it is versatile in the sense you got the 2-to-1 or 1-to-1. I think this is something to consider. Also, you consider all the base functions that comes with it, and then not to mention, in my opinion, a pretty affordable add-on for all these other pieces that I personally would use. I didn't even mention the TV mount, which I think is actually really cool. So I'll leave it at that. I want you guys to look at that, but I thought I wanted to really interject here and give you guys a full summary and breakdown of why I think this X15 is a big contender. This one is a 2-to-1 and also a 1-to-1. So you get the 2-to-1, meaning that whatever weight is on there, you're cutting it in half. So it says 40, you're lifting 50. But then if you want to do 1-to-1, meaning whatever weight is on there is what you're lifting, you got that going on right here. And I think that's kind of huge because if you're looking at something to use, say, for a lat pull down, seated pull, you actually have that option here with this 2-to-1 and 1-to-1 situation. And so this I kind of feel like is the best of both worlds. Kind of said in a previous review video when you're talking about Force USA stuff or just functional trainers in general. For me personally, the big weak spot is the back for heavy pulls, heavy lat pull downs, and being able to actually do them properly with decent amount of weight, not topping off the machine. All that to say, I'm not a big fan of the 2-to-1 ratio. I think the 1-to-1 ratio is where it's at, so you can lift some heavy weight. Now this gives you the best of both worlds, where the 2-to-1 allows you to kind of lift things a little bit more kind of fluidly, gets you some lighter weight for, say, smaller single joint exercise, bicep curls, tricep extensions, flies, of course, stuff like that. But if you want to go heavy, that stuff is certainly there. You also have these further extended shrouds, which I think are actually pretty cool and give it some character. There's other little quality of life features for me of why I really like this one. I keep getting drawn to this as I'm here at their headquarters. Love the shelving because I got a mess everywhere and this is just easy kind of storage option to get here. While it is a decent size, I think this thing's like 90-ish inches high. I'll throw the dimensions on there. I like this shelving because it's definitely wide enough to hold any kind of cradle, adjustable dumbbell. I want to say even power blocks would be fine because you got a lot of room here to kind of work with pulling on a pin of a power block.
And they're slanted now, but they actually can be configured where it's nice and straight. But up close, when you're looking at it, everything is pretty much heavy duty. I would say it's up there in comparison with a Rogue Rep product, especially in these uprights and just how they feel. This thing is, you know, rock solid. And I'd say it's a big difference between this and some of their other models, which have a little bit of shake to them, but I think they're structurally built a little bit differently. This is your, again, that solid 3x3 frame. You can just see even the nuts and the bolts here. It is, again, heavy duty, what we tend to expect. They actually do have jammer arms that are similar to the other design, and I said before, they actually did kind of surprise me in their functionality. There are shorter lever arms, so it allows you to kind of adjust them a little bit easier than other lever arms, but for the basic exercises, it does feel great. Not just saying that, to be honest, I actually thought I was not gonna like them at first, and I told them I didn't like it initially, but a little limiting in some of the things it can do, but I think for the basics, it does it well, and if you want it, you can kind of store it behind the rack. I think at the end of the day with something like this, I said to Force USA, I mean, if this is something that does not have their Smith machine, but if it did, this would be really close to something I personally would want, because I just aesthetically, just one, like the way it looks, and I think it's a good value for also some unique features that make it stand out amongst the competition. That's my thoughts on it though, guys. Any questions, comments, feedback, let me know. As always, if you want to pick up this or anything from Force USA, I got a unique promo code flashing the screen here and also down in the description box. Help support me and the channel. I'll see you guys on the next video.